Hi, everyone. I have a fun feature in Elicit that has been helping me a lot this week. I was having some writer's block and I had read too many papers and I didn't know what to do next for my literature review. I've never done a dissertation before and I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but this is how I got through some writer's block just sort of by playing with Elicit. So I'm here in elicit.org and I'm going to do some searching. I'm going to, let's see, focus on how does relatedness, sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. How does relatedness support women's persistence in STEM fields? The theory I'm using is called self-determination theory, and it maintains that there are a few constructs that people need satisfied to have the motivation to persist toward goals. So one of the constructs, one of the psychological needs that are part of intrinsic motivation is relatedness. So I'm doing my literature review construct by construct. The other two are autonomy and competence, and this one is relatedness. So I have read so many papers and I was just in the weeds with all these details and I needed some way to focus. So I thought, well, I'm going to sort of play with Elicit and see if I can have some fun, find some new features, and also figure out how to get through my writer's block. So here we are. So I did this search. I've done this search dozens of times in the last several months, right? Sort of finding the same things over and over, which is not bad, but I wasn't progressing. So I recognize these papers, I recognize these authors' names now. We're like old friends. So I have these already saved in my spreadsheet mostly. So I decided to do a new strategy and focus on one thing at a time, which makes a lot of sense, right? But I hadn't really tried to do it before. This shows me the paper title, an abstract summary, and a summary of the top 4 papers of the 8 that it brings up per batch. So here, that is all great. I was over here looking in the lower left-hand corner and it says add information about papers. And I thought, well, what else could there be? And I looked through here, authors, journal, citations, funding source, and I scrolled down some more and I found this one called main findings. And I thought that sounds really useful. So I'm going to add that and it adds main findings to another column in the results page. And now this was really useful to me. For some reason, seeing these in bullet points just helped me a lot. It's quicker for me to compare paper to paper than it was to use just the abstract summary or to click through and read the whole abstract. I'm not saying that those aren't valuable. I would definitely read the whole abstract and download the whole paper once I decide that I need it. But just for the purposes of deciding in a search which papers I need for this specific section of my literature review, this helps me get really specific. So I'm looking now for things that have to do with relatedness and persistence. I'm just trying to narrow things down because I've been searching so broadly for so many months. So I'm skimming these bullets and I'm looking for words that are like relatedness, connectedness, belonging. And when I go through here, I'm not going to do it real time because it's still time consuming, but I can go through and star the papers that are especially specific to this piece of my literature review, not the whole theory, not the whole phenomenon, but this little piece of literature review that I'm trying to write today. And I can keep the ones that are super specifically related and I can get rid of the ones. These are all still good papers. They have great information, they have numerous citations, but I don't need them for the paragraph I'm trying to make progress on right now. So I go through, I get rid of ones that are less related. I can say, okay, now show me ones that are more like the specific ones that I starred up here. So Elicit will go back, look at the ones that I put stars next to, and bring up another batch to add to this. And I will go through again and I will look at these bullet points of main findings for words that I know I need to read about and write about for this piece of my lit review. It's taking a minute here. And then once I get these narrowed down, come up yet? Here it comes. Once I get these narrowed down, I'll go through and I choose a few more. This one, maybe that doesn't look as closely related. I have trouble narrowing things down, so I'm forcing myself right now to be picky and to use a really narrow filter for myself. I know that I want things that relate to belonging, connectedness, relatedness, interventions that improve that, the effects of having that and not having that on women's persistence in STEM. So I'm looking for very specific words that I know I've already read about and I know I need to include in this piece of my literature review. So say I have these really fine-tuned, I would do that many more times. And I would also do that with variations on this question. But once I get it down, I will export as a CSV. And then I can import that into my gigantic spreadsheet into a tab on that spreadsheet that is specifically for relatedness and persistence. And then I'll go through and I'll tweak this question and I'll get something similar. I'll go through this process again, click main findings, add that to this list. And then when I export this, this main findings column will also be included in that export. So I can use that and go into my big spreadsheet and color code ones. So if I'm looking for papers that mention belongingness interventions, I can assign that a color in my spreadsheet and go through, look at the findings. Say I want to look at more details for this paper, I can still click on it. I can click through to the PDF or a link to the text. I can copy and paste. I can go through here and see what were they measuring? Who were the participants in the sample? Can I trust this paper? Were there any funders? Are there any likely conflicts of interest? Have other studies cited this paper critically, negatively, positively? I look through these things, I decide whether I want to use it, and then I can go and get the full paper, read it, and include it in my literature review. So I hope this is helpful. Happy researching.